If you're a tech geek like me, you not only want to learn about what's new, but you also want to get feedback and opinions from tech insiders about which new apps, software, and devices are worth using. But where can you find a community of tech experts who discuss everything from computers to space exploration and whose opinions you can trust? I'm Jane Singer, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to join me here. It's wonderful to have you as part of our international community that now includes top-performing industry executives like you from over 100 countries. It's great to know that so many people around the world are able to benefit from the experience, insights, and wisdom of the many truly outstanding people who are guests on this show. And in case you haven't heard, you can now ask our guests questions. You can do this by simply going to our website at seatpodcast.com. That's SEAT podcast.com. And there's a form where you can submit a question. Today I'm talking with Lisa Laporte, CEO of Twit TV, a dedicated podcast network that is the go-to place for anyone with a passion for technology and innovation. In this episode, Lisa talks about what differentiates Twit TV from the vast number of podcasts and typical podcast channels, the importance of having shows hosted by trusted experts, and how Twit TV is bringing together its tech community with offline as well as online experiences. Before we get started, if you're a supply chain executive who'd like to finally put an end to information overload and get a simple, concise, fact-based summary of key market developments and shifts, then the current situation in sourcing is exactly what you're looking for. To get immediate access, head on over to thecurrentsituation.net. That's thecurrentsituation.net, where you can get all of the details. I'll also put a link in the show notes for this episode and also over on our website. Now let's find out from Lisa about what's happening over at Twit TV. I'm really interested to hear what you're doing. You've started a tech-based, you said, podcast network. Tell me about that, Lisa.
So my husband actually founded the network in 2005. So it was one of the first podcast networks ever, out there. Adam Curry actually started early on, and then he shortly came on thereafter. And then I came on a couple of years later because it was starting to be a real business. And his accountant goes, you need a consultant. At the time, my background, if I go, gosh, I'm old now. So if I go back 35 years ago, I started running companies. So my background was in business, was kind of like a COO, working in accounting, became a corporate controller, CFO, and then decided I wanted to hit that by 35. I hit that by 33. So at 36, I'm like, I'm going to start my own consulting business. So I quit. I went out and I just said, I'm going to be a micro CFO, COO for everybody. It was when the .com crash happened.
Right.
And so I started, I quickly in 6 months had 30 clients. I had the CFO title at 3 companies because they needed micro people. I had a handful of staffers. And then I ran into this small company called Twit. And I looked at my CPA and I said, are you joking? And he goes, no, it means This Week in Tech. So I went and met the founder, and this was 15 years ago. And I started talking to him and I'm like, wow, I really like this. It's new media. It's exciting. It's interesting. And he started helping and working out on the back end. And then after about a year, I just fell in love with media and gave up my own consulting business about 2 years in to really launch our company and really get it going. And then 5 years ago, I started my own sales agency again, because I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have to have my fingers in something. And that's, pretty much how I had stepped into media. So it's been very interesting watching this landscape grow, all the other things that have come into it. So yeah, it's exciting, it's fun, and it's relevant, which I really like because we cover tech's in everything now. So when we started, it was super serving a super niche geek audience. And now it's everywhere. It's in everything, but we still super serve a very tech savvy audience and people that eat, love, and breathe tech.
Oh, that's great. I'm a tech geek on the side. When I'm not doing my regular work, I love to fiddle around with those kind of things, find out what's new. There's a platform, you probably know of it, called AppSumo out of Austin, where people doing beta launches put it on there. And I love seeing what's new cool. and fiddling with it. And I buy more than the necessary amount of that kind of stuff. And
that's okay. It sounds like you're a lifelong learner. It's what, when you are a lifelong learner, you're always interested and you're always learning something. So why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. It's important to keep your mind open to things and to look at things outside of your own business because it expands your mind, even if it's not something that's going to be practical or applicable to what you're doing, but it enriches your thinking capacity, so to speak.
I completely agree with that. I'm always learning. I probably I read about 8 or 9 books a month. That doesn't count all the
Wow.
podcasts I listen to. I run 2 companies. I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. I want to learn something about it, so I'll dive in. Everyone's like, when you hit 50, you stop learning, and I said,
Oh, no.
what? I feel like my mind opened up when I turned 50. So I'm not
Yes.
really. I disagree with that statement. I think that's a very misguided idea that when you're 50 you can't learn. I completely think it's the opposite.
Oh, there's so many platitudes out there that people throw around. That's absolute rubbish. I think that actually when you get older, you learn more because you're not so tied up in petty things that when you're younger are obsessing and controlling your mind, right? About worrying about, does this dress look right on me? Or what did somebody say to, you're past all that nonsense. And you're able
Yes.
to really put a lot more energy on things that are more productive and more self-fulfilling, so to speak.
Yeah. And you just have more wisdom. So I just think it goes, once you have more wisdom and you realize how little you do know in the real world, like you might be an expert in this very small slice of life, and you may know a little bit about another quarter of that, and you may know nothing about everything else, but you become resourceful. And I
Yes,
think that
absolutely.
becomes like just the key to life for me.
Yeah,
So.
I would agree totally on that. I mean, yeah, the more you turn off all that background noise, the better your life is. It's like it's an unbelievably life enhancing activity is to just hit the off button on any of that kind of noise. And like you say, focus on things that are actually educational.
Yeah, and relevant and things that can just, make the planet better, people
Right.
better. I'm just always an optimist and always looking for like how can I improve and what can we do to help our planet, with global warming and everything.
Yeah, I think that's really great. So tell me a little bit more about Twit. It's a platform specifically for tech related podcasts. So how does that work?
So the one thing that sets a podcast network aside from like traditional media is we're not governed by the FCC. We are governed. We do have rules to follow with the FTC because we do have an ad supported division of our network. So in doing ad reads, you have to follow all those particular rules. But that's one of the cool things about having a podcast network. We have average lengths of shows, but you can go over, you can go a little under. It's not like set in stone like traditional media. So that part's fun. And our network is really created to super serve the tech enthusiast, those that are really passionate about tech, want to know about tech, want to know what's happening with tech. So that's what our network has. We have 13 shows right now.
Wow.
They're all, of course, related to tech or something technical people like. We just launched This Week in Space because a lot of people that are into IT and tech really are curious as to what's going on with the space. And then, of course, everybody and their brother seems to be building a rocket right now.
Right.
So that's part of it. And also a lot of geeks and a lot of people that are interested in tech really love photography. So we have a photography show too. So we try to stay with things that our audience would love or wants to know about. And we just really keep it relevant. And we just have expert journalists on our network that can really dive into the subjects and really bring to you, the expertise around it and filter through it. So we're mostly popular for our tech news, our reviews, a little bit on that, help and how to, and really help people navigate through the landscape if they're unsure of, which direction to go into.
Wow, that's really interesting. And you're right, space is huge right now.
It's just something that our audience is interested in. So what we do is when we think like we really want to do a topic, we really want to cover something that we find is relevant that our audience will want to know about, we poll our audience every year. We always ask them what's relevant. What's almost always equal is content and the host. This last year was the first year content was probably just a little bit higher than who the host is. But who the host is relevant because the audience wants to trust them and know them and feels like they're your best friend. Like my husband is our lead host on our network. He founded it. He's been broadcasting for 40 years. People trust him.
Right.
He's honest with them. He's not going to lie about what he thinks about a product. If he doesn't like a product, it's too bad. If we have signed an advertiser and they have a massive security breach, they'll be calling me going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, are you going to talk about it? And we're like, yeah, we're going to be talking about it. And sometimes it means we may have to pull their ads if it's something significant, but it's why we have a huge strict vetting process with our sponsors. Right. We don't just take anyone and everyone. We only sign those that our audience can benefit from. Right. So it has to fit our audience. They have to be an amazing product or service, but it doesn't mean there's not issues that happen. And they do come up and we do talk about them. And so because of that trust and that full transparency with our audience, it works.
We're going to take a quick break now, and then we'll be right back.
We were hiring when we were making 50 to 100K monthly losses.
And why? Welcome to episode 1.
I can't think of a single founder who's been around for a decent amount of time in business who hasn't had their tunnel of year. This was that year. We're going to be okay, yeah, Sheree. Some are going to hear this and think, you TDP. But hear me out. You only have to do the math to understand that very soon we were $500,000 down.
I think that's really important. And you know, you touched on the word trust. And honestly, I think that is such a critical touch point nowadays that so many brands, retailers, service providers, everybody overlooks. And they think it's just about coming up with the newest shiny object and, you know, more competitive pricing or more exclusivity. And I think you're absolutely right. What people nowadays really want fundamentally, whatever it is they're either buying or listening to or whatever, is they want that trust factor because it's so hard to find. So the fact that you've built that in as part of your foundation, I think is just huge.
Well, it's actually in our tagline. We have an opening before our show starts is podcast you love from people you trust. Wow. And that has been there from day one. And once in a while, somebody might mention a conspiracy thing on our network and our hosts are quickly to point it out. Nope, that's not okay. We're not going to go in that direction. Right. So we don't mind your opinion on something, but if somebody throws something out that's completely false, we'll even bring it up and say that that's not true as well. So, so for us, it's really important that we're honest with our audience. We bring them the expertise they're looking for. Our hosts are all technical experts. They read all the time. They're always involved in everything. I mean, my husband's a great example. He tells everybody, oh, I don't work really hard. He reads 4 to 5 hours out of the day. He codes in multiple languages. He has 8 phones. He's always playing on something. And he's just, I call him my walking encyclopedia. He knows like a little bit about everything beyond tech, but he eats and loves and breathes tech. And our audience knows that. And we have, we have over 30 million downloads a year, unique downloads a year. It doesn't count former content. And we have a nationally syndicated radio show. And we started early, which really helps because there's a lot of people out there right now, like trying to start a podcast and, they'll reach out to me. Hey, I want to do a podcast. I want to make a lot of money. And it's like, well, that's not why you do a podcast.
Right. Exactly.
You should do a podcast because you love it. You have something to say. You're an expert, or you should do a podcast to maybe promote what you're doing for a living. Like I know some coaches that do podcasting. I know lots of people that have services that they offer. They'll do a podcast to get more business, but I do not recommend starting a podcast because you're trying to make $1 billion in a day.
I totally agree. And I think it's really interesting because when I started this show, I did it because I wanted to for once have a project that money wasn't part of the equation. I wanted to be able to have something that I could just build something that was good and that was dedicated to serving a particular audience. And if money comes down the road, that's a good thing too. I'm not going to turn it away. But I didn't want to do what most people do. And after all, business is business. We can't deny that you start a business to make money. But I didn't want it to be just driven by how can I make more money.
And it shouldn't, because the reality is you have to have a passion. You have to put yourself out there. Then you have to build an audience.
Right.
And money doesn't come right away. I mean, people that reach out to me go, I have 500, 600 downloads an episode. I go, well, call me when you have 50,000, because that's kind of where you need to be to actually start to do this with advertising. But now that landscape has changed. I mean, there are tools out there. Spotify owns a tool called Megaphone, in which you can partner with them. They'll charge you for bandwidth. But if your podcast is interesting enough, they will sell ads and put them in your shows. It's through dynamic ad insertion, and they will share the revenue with you. So you can go into podcasting and have ads supported with it and having somebody else do it. If you are really good at building an audience and you feel you want to do your own ad reads, I recommend host read ads, because if people are listening to you because they trust you and they want to hear what you have to say, you doing the ad read is way more compelling than somebody just dynamically inserting an ad read that someone else read. You could also do like producer read ads where they sound really good, but it's still not you. So our network does host read ads. They are fresh every time. We don't dynamically insert them. We don't pre-record them. So we actually do them live in the content of our shows. And we do all of our shows live to tape. And we started out as an audio only podcast, but we were one of the first to switch to video before anyone even understood. Like before YouTube was even launched, we had video shows. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And I totally agree with you about the value of the host and the host reading it, because you're not only reaching that audience, like you said, you're leveraging the trust of that host has built with their audience, which is priceless in many cases. It's a third-party endorsement, so to speak. So I think that's really good. And I think that the vision that you've brought to all aspects of what you're doing is really remarkable. Because like you said, you started doing this before it was like the cool thing to do, so to speak. And so, you've pioneered it, but it has, it gives you a foundation that other people don't have. Coming in new to the game and looking at it is just, the next big thing, so to speak. Now, your focus is on tech. What are the hot topics at the moment in tech? What are you seeing from the ground up that people are really jumping on in terms of tech?
Well, they're always curious as about everything that's going on. We'll be talking about Elon Musk making a move for Twitter right now. People come to us because they want to know, like, oh, this happened. What are you guys saying about it? What do you think will happen next? So that's, we tend to build the content of every show we have on our network that week. So it's relevant. There's either news or analysis around what's happening in tech. And then we are looking at doing some new shows. And what we do is we take a look at what's the landscape is out there that our fans are looking for. We found that doing tips and tricks really help people. We used to have a show called Hands on Mac. We're looking at bringing that back because we ended up putting it on hiatus because it wasn't selling out to advertisers. But now we're like, we found a way that we want to actually create it. So in the pandemic, we actually launched Club Twit. So we actually have a club now where we put all of our content out ad free. There's bonus content in there too.
Is that on a subscription basis or a membership basis?
Yes.
Okay.
So they get all of our shows ad free. They get bonus content that we don't release to the public, or you can get it for free and listen to our ads. And what's interesting is, when we did the club, we actually had a lot of our clubbers say, hey, can you put like an ad from every new advertiser in here? Because we need to know what products to buy for our work and for this. So it was really cute. So they actually like our ad reads because we don't overwhelm them with a zillion ads. But then this way they're getting a little bit of ads in there. And plus we want to be able to do content with hosts that don't want to do ad reads. They're not good at ad reads. They're really good at content and people want that. So we're going to start mixing it up and start dabbling and doing a few different things. And it's just what we have to do to stay relevant, to continue to offer content to our audience and to continue to keep our network going forward. Because honestly, there's 2,000 new podcasts launched every week.
Wow.
Only about 3% of them get to episode 10.
Wow.
But it's getting so crowded and noisy out there with everybody and their brother launching a podcast that we want to make sure our fans know who we are. Geeks know where to go when they want to get this content. And we're going to keep super serving them.
Yeah, I think that's really excellent. And I think that, you seem to have the discipline to be able to balance creativity, but also stay in your lane. And that's not easy to do because you can be, and I fall into this trap as well. I have to constantly reel myself back in. You see this idea and that idea, and you think, wow, this would be great. But you can't do everything. And the more you narrow your focus, the more relevant you are to your audience. So at the same time, you also do want to be creative and keep bringing in new things. Otherwise, you become stagnant. So I really respect the fact that you're able to do that and do that very successfully.
Tried a lot of things. I can't say everything has worked out. I mean, we've gone outside of our realm a little bit and we found that didn't work. So we pulled it back in. We used to always test our shows before we actually launched them. So we would turn on our live stream and just play with stuff and get audience feedback and put them out on YouTube just to see what they thought about it. We pull our audience. We find out what they're interested in. We also just talk to our hosts. Hey, what are you interested in? Just like car tech's becoming super, popular. EVs are really coming around. So that's becoming more and more relevant. So we pay attention to see what's going on out there in technology. And then we talk to a few people. And now our model is we're going to test shows in our club before we take them out into the public. It's really easy for us. It's low hanging fruit. The club can give us some ideas. We can push some things out. So we're going to start workshopping another show in the next month. I'm starting to tease it out to our audience to let them know more is coming down the pipeline, and they're very happy about it. And we just pay attention to what they want and what's happening in tech. And that's how we determine what's next.
Wow, really interesting. What topics at the moment do you see are trending in tech? You mentioned car tech and space.
I think with EVs, well, space is, we've been watching space, and not just with everyone trying to go to space, but with, looking at other universes and other galaxies and things like that. We just notice how interested in and how more things are happening around it. So whatever we look at, we have to remember we try to do. So whatever is out there, we may go, yeah, that sounds really interesting, but can we do 52 weeks of this? So that's part of it. There has to be enough content around what's going on. So we have an expert that comes on and talks about EVs. I am keeping an eye on that. I've always wanted to do something with startups, with tech startups. I think that sounds really compelling, but then the pandemic kind of put that on the back burner. We launched an enterprise tech show that I've been trying to launch for 6 years, and we had to find the right host. It has to be very niche. It's super relevant, and it's going to super serve a very small audience. So that's pretty much how we tend to look at it. It has to fit that criteria. We're doing a Twit cruise this summer. So in July, we're going to Alaska. We have 125 fans who signed up for it. So we're going to start doing, we've used to do some meetups and in live events where you could come see us. So now that the pandemic's lifting, we used to allow audience members to come into our studio. I don't know if or when that will come back yet, but we're going to start doing some more events where we get out to our public. They know we're going to an event. We generally do like, hey, we'll meet up at this one barbecue place if you all want to come hang out with us. And like I said, it's really about serving our audience, and we're just transparent with people. We're just very honest and transparent with our partners.
Right. Yeah, I think that's huge. You don't find that very often.
When you come to our network, we don't play those games. And we're selective in who we pick in that partners, because we really want to hit the highly educated, the tech savvy audience, the people that are really interested in tech. So we're careful about how we do that. And then we've had shows that started out pretty strong that started to dwindle, and we've just had to cancel them because or pivot them and change them because technology changes. Like we had a show that started out, it was iPad today. Oh, iPads are really great. After 5 years, no one cared. So we pivoted that show to iOS today because everyone cares about iOS. Everyone has a phone. Everyone has, an iPad, which is less relevant. So that show's become more of an iOS show. Yeah. That's why we're trying to stay in our lane. We stick with tech. We know what we do. We know who we want to serve. We know what we're offering. And that's why we're going to always stay in our lane on that.
Yeah, that it's so interesting that you talked about staying in your lane. You're absolutely right. You have to really niche down and you have to focus. And it's hard to do, especially when you're in a revenue-driven model where you have monthly targets or annual targets, and you just start to, grab at straws when you're not meeting those targets. Just try anything.
And we've done that. We've tested, we tried doing food and we thought we'd do, like, oh, we'll do a Reddit show. Well, people that are on Reddit don't want a Reddit show. I mean, so we found out the hard way on a few things. And then we just realized what made the most sense for us and we're doing it. So.
Yeah, I applaud you for being able to see the opportunity long before anybody else did and to be able to actualize it, which is not that easy to do, and pivot as things have evolved over time, which is also not hard to do. It's tempting to say, we've always done this, let's stick to what we've always done. It's always worked. This might be a bad year. It'll come back. Whereas it really takes a certain genius that to do what you've been doing, which is to understand when you have to sort of ride out a dip and when you have to say, we're at the end of the road and we need to take a turn. That's not easy to do.
Yeah, that's definitely on my plate. My husband is like, well, just stick with this and we'll do this one thing. And because he's the broadcaster, he's a star. And so I finally had to go, all right, you go do content. There's your lane. I'm going to run the business. Here's my lane. I mean, I consult him on all the big stuff, but for the most part, I have to run the business and I have to make decisions that make sense. And so I'll come to him and say, hey, I want to do this. And he'll be like, oh my God, how are you going to make that happen? And I'm like, don't worry about that. You focus on content. That's why you hired me. So I just feel really blessed all the way around that I get to think and have the time for ideation and creation. And then we can test stuff. And does everything work? No, but that's where I say fail and fail fast.
Yeah, I totally agree. Lisa, where can people find you before we, run out of time? Where can people find Twit Network? Where can people find the other things that you're working on?
Well, if you want to find us, we're at twit.tv, just twit.tv.
Okay.
If you're interested in advertising with us, it's twit.tv/advertise, or you can email me at lisa@twit.tv. And I'll be sure to have my VP of sales reach out to you, or maybe you'll hear from me. So that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Well, that's great. Well, I'll definitely include those links in the show notes as well. I think a lot of people are going to want to tune in to your shows because tech is huge. I think most people have at least some interest in it, and many, many people are highly interested in a lot of the topics that you talk about. So I'll be heading over there myself as well. I have a feeling
we have something for everyone.
Yeah, I might be spending more time than I expected.
Well, what's really fun is like all of our shows make sense. We have iOS Today. It's all about iOS. Mac Break Weekly. It's covering everything Apple. Windows Weekly, Windows. So you know what you're getting. And, we also have a midweek show. It's Tech News Weekly. That's great for that busy working professional that just wants a quick bite of, tech. Right. And so there's just so much. We even have a feed called Tech Break. So if you don't really have time to listen to a whole show, we put snippets out on there of relevant things happening all the time. So there's all kinds of way you can consume our content. Those are just a few of the things that you can find on our network.
Wow, that's great. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. I totally appreciate your taking the time and sharing so many interesting insights, things I never would have thought of myself. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to A Seat at the Table. If you enjoyed this episode or learned something from it, I'd love to hear about it. Your feedback powers this show. If you'd like to support the show, please hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Also, share episodes you found valuable on LinkedIn or other social media, and call out your biggest insight or takeaway from the program. And don't forget to tag me, Jane Singer. I'd love to see which episodes you like best. And if you have time, please leave a review on any of the major podcast channels. As I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, A Seat at the Table has a new feature. If you've ever listened to a podcast and thought, I have a question, well, now you can ask. I'll be letting you know about upcoming guests on our show, and you can send in questions. Also, you can ask questions after the show, and we'll forward them to our guests for feedback. If you'd like to participate or just want to learn more, head on over to our website at seatpodcast.com. That's SEAT podcast.com for all of the details. The links will also be in the show notes. You can leave any thoughts, feedback, or suggestions there, and yes, I will read them. Thank you for joining me today and for supporting the show. I'm Jane Singer, and I'll see you in the next episode of A Seat at the Table.